So look at Anthony Ryder from South Lyon, Michigan, recently selected as the Lions 2020 Fan of the Year. He has a passion about sports broadcasting.
With the 112th selection in the 2021 NFL Draft, the Detroit Lions select Amon-Ra St. Brown, wide receiver, USC. One pride, baby! Yeah! What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another Detroit Lions video. Now, I think it's fair to say that Jameson Williams has been the most controversial Detroit Lion over the last couple of years. I think certainly the most controversial Lion in the Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes era. It started all the way back on the night that Jameson Williams was drafted, as people were upset that the Lions would dare to trade up for a player that's coming off of a torn ACL and likely wouldn't have a major impact in the 2022 season. And from there, it continued to be one thing after another, as Jameson Williams was continuously ridiculed over and over by Detroit Lions fans about his maturity issues, about how he wasn't impactful enough in 2022, and everything in between, as the Lions fans continue to have a target on Jameson Williams' back and continue to treat him as if he is a bust already, despite only playing a few games into his NFL career. So today, I wanted to take a look at Jameson Williams. I wanted to take a look at what Jameson Williams did in college, why the Detroit Lions drafted him 12th overall, what he did as a rookie and how impressive he actually was, as well as kind of talk about why Detroit Lions fans are so critical of Jameson Williams and whether or not that criticism and apparently maturity issue accusations are fair to have on such a young player. So with that being said, let's start off with Jameson Williams on draft night. Coming out of the University of Alabama after starting one season with the Crimson Tide and transferring over from the Ohio State Buckeyes, Jameson Williams had a phenomenal season, having 79 receptions, 1,572 yards, 15 touchdowns while averaging 19.9 yards per reception. He was looked at as arguably the best offensive player in the 2022 NFL Draft and was talked about as the most explosive player in the 2022 NFL Draft. Many people had Jameson Williams being a top 10 selection, and several analysts had him being the number one wide receiver off the board. Now, due to his ACL tear in the national championship, unfortunately, that did not happen. Drake London went ahead of him, Garrett Wilson went ahead of him, as well as Chris Olave, who both of whom were his Ohio State teammates when he was a member of the Buckeyes. Now, as I mentioned, Jameson Williams unfortunately had an injury bug, right? Jameson Williams, after having a phenomenal season with the Crimson Tide, after playing 14 games and being arguably the best wide receiver in college football, unfortunately tore his ACL in the national championship game versus Georgia, which caused a lot of issues. He missed the offseason, he missed the NFL Combine, he didn't get to participate in a pro day, he missed his college offseason, he missed the NFL preseason, including training camp, OTAs, and everything that's supposed to prepare you for an NFL season, and then eventually ended up missing 2/3 of the actual regular season as he continued to recover and as he continued to get back to 100% health and find his way back onto the football field. Now, Jameson Williams was not 100% this season, right? Even after returning to the Detroit Lions in week 12, being physically prepared to play, I think that there was still kind of a mental barrier there, right? It was still a mental hurdle for Jameson Williams to get back on the field and fully trust his body again. And I'm not sure if we ever truly saw a 100% Jameson Williams in the 2022 season. And even if he was physically 100% healthy, again, that mental strain of trusting your body again, trusting that knee to be planted on, is another hurdle that Jameson Williams had to overcome in order to return to the field and become an elite playmaker like the Detroit Lions wanted him to be. Now, Jameson Williams was a very explosive player his rookie season, but had a lot of ups and downs. Now, Jameson Williams, throughout his final 6 games as an NFL rookie, only 6 games as an NFL rookie, had just 3 touches of the football. He had 9 targets, he had 2 receptions, and 1 rushing attempt. But those 3 touches were incredibly important and explosive for the Detroit Lions. The first one came in Jameson Williams' second ever game as a Detroit Lion, where he had just 1 reception, but that was a 41-yard receiving touchdown versus the Minnesota Vikings to tie up the game early and swing the momentum in favor of the Detroit Lions. That was an incredible moment at Ford Field as Jameson Williams had his first reception of his NFL career go for a 41-yard touchdown, and you could feel the energy in the room from him. You could feel the energy in the building from all the fans, and it, as I said, really swung momentum in favor of the Detroit Lions at that point in the game. Now, he went a couple games without a touch after that, and then had his second ever touch of the football versus the Chicago Bears on an end around that went for 40 yards, putting the Detroit Lions in the red zone that would eventually lead to a Detroit Lions touchdown. He missed a game. He didn't have a touch versus the Carolina Panthers, but then came back versus the Green Bay Packers and had a 50-yard receiving touchdown. Again, the only receiving touchdown or the only reception of his career, or the only reception of that game. But unfortunately, that one was called back due to a hold. Now, that hold did not impact the play at all. It was actually a late hold after Jared Goff had already released the football. And Jameson Williams on this play created separation, made a tough catch through traffic, and then stayed on his feet and outran the defender who had an angle all the way to the end zone for a 50-plus yard touchdown. So Jameson Williams, realistically, his rookie season, touched the football 3 times, had 2 receptions for 91 yards and 2 touchdowns, while having 1 rushing attempt for 40 yards, taking it into the end zone or taking it into the red zone that eventually ended up resulting in a Detroit Lions touchdown. He added a big play threat the Lions did not previously have. And whether you think that this was enough production for Jameson Williams his rookie season, it was certainly enough production to have people excited to see what number 9 was going to do in his sophomore year. Now, unfortunately, Jameson Williams is facing suspension. Unfortunately, Jameson Williams violated league policies surrounding the gambling policies and is going to miss the first 6 games of the 2022 and 2023 NFL season. But this is not the first time Jameson Williams has been under a microscope by Detroit Lions fans, and it is certainly not the first thing that Jameson Williams has done to warrant Detroit Lions fans to be upset. Now, this is a list of things that people have been upset about, and people have targeted Jameson Williams with accusations over the last 2 seasons since he's been drafted. Now, again, this all started on draft night when Jameson Williams was drafted 12th overall as the Detroit Lions traded up to do so. He was ridiculed for being the 12th overall pick despite having an ACL tear. He was ridiculed for not smiling at his first press conference despite several players across the league every single year doing a very similar thing. There were people upset that Jameson Williams' recovery time wasn't on the schedule that they thought it should be on and didn't return until week 12 versus the Jacksonville Jaguars, despite tearing his ACL in early January and returning in mid-December. Now, people were upset about the slow start due to the lack of chemistry between him and Jared Goff, and they put that slow start on Jameson Williams because he should have been the one developing that chemistry off the field. He should have been the one who knows how Jared Goff plays, and he should have been the one to develop that chemistry on his own. Now, throughout the offseason, people were upset that Jameson Williams liked posts on Twitter. They were, of course, upset about the suspension, and then they were upset that Jameson Williams traveled after that suspension, going to Vegas a few days after to go to a boxing event. People were upset about that, despite very clearly Jameson Williams likely having those tickets months in advance. They were then upset that Jameson Williams did not fly all the way out to People were then upset that Jameson Williams did not fly all the way out to California to get off-field practice in with Jared Goff, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and a few other Detroit Lions players who happen to live in California through the offseason. And all of this has led to people claiming that Jameson Williams has a maturity issue, that Jameson Williams needs a mentor, that Jameson Williams needs some help off the field in order to even have a chance to become a successful wide receiver in the NFL. Now, there are some more serious accusations on this list than others, right? I think that the suspension is a fair thing to be concerned about. I think that that is something that, hey, it was a big mistake for Jameson Williams, and that is something that I think Lions fans are warranted to be upset about. Now, in Jameson Williams' defense, I don't think the rules of the NFL's gambling policy are necessarily the clearest, as several players have come out saying that they don't fully understand the rule, as 4 Detroit Lions members were actively released and suspended due to these rules, as well as a couple other players around the league. I know that Shaka Toney from the Washington Commanders, as well as Isaiah Rodgers from the Indianapolis Colts, were also suspended for very similar things to Jameson Williams. Now, Jameson Williams did not bet on the NFL. Jameson Williams bet on, I believe, college basketball in his hotel room before or after a game, but that is technically considered a team facility why the Detroit Lions are staying at that hotel from an away game. So, with that being the case, Jameson Williams then eventually legally bet on a college basketball game, but that happened to be at a team facility at the time, which is why he's facing a 6-game suspension. Now, Jameson Williams did not cry about it on Twitter. He did not go on the media and go on a podcast and complain about the NFL. He handled the situation very maturely, in my opinion, going out and saying, I didn't fully understand the rule, but I take full responsibility for what happened. I didn't know that this was the case, but I should have known, and it is not ever going to happen again. Now, people don't believe Jameson Williams. Of course, they're going to be upset about Jameson Williams. There's people that are calling for him to not only be released, but just completely be offloaded by the Detroit Lions and never talked about again. And quite frankly, I think that is 100% over the top, right? Jameson Williams is a kid. He made a mistake. He didn't fully understand the rule and still took full responsibility for everything that he did and said that it isn't going to happen again. So until it happens again, and if it ever happens again, then you really can't be mad at him for poor decision making for something he didn't know on a one-off kind of weird situation that, quite frankly, I don't believe anybody knew. And several people have come out and said, yeah, these rules aren't being fully transparent and aren't being very well communicated between teams, staffs, and players. But other than that, all of these things are small nitpicks that truly do not show anything about Jameson Williams as a player, as a character, or really give reason to be concerned at all. I mean, not smiling at a press conference, being too slow on your recovery time for an ACL, not flying all the way out to meet people in California that live in California and are just kind of doing a once in a while pickup style training, not liking things on Twitter. Like, there are so many things that are small details, that are small, insignificant things to the offseason and small, insignificant things to Jamo as a player that people are picking apart relentlessly and going as far as to say that he's already a bust because of those small things. Now, Jameson Williams is now going into his 2023 season, going into his sophomore campaign, who gets a preseason. He now gets 100% health. And despite having a few drops early at OTAs, despite having a few chemistry things to still iron out throughout OTAs and minicamp, he is improving daily. His chemistry with Jared Goff has improved drastically from the first couple of days of OTAs. His hands have been improved slightly from the first couple of days. And even though there are a few drops here and there, he still continues to find success and still continues to be a big play threat, even on 11-on-11 and 7v7 drills. His timing with Jared Goff has been much improved over the last couple of practices, as well as now he gets the opportunity to work with Amon-Ra St. Brown, as well as Calvin Johnson, two of the most professional wide receivers, both in the NFL, as well as a former NFL player, are both now helping him with both his hands, as well as several other factors of his game, including separation and just overall improving him as a player. So you have a second-year wide receiver who is becoming 100% healthy, is now getting a preseason and getting an offseason, is improving and showing improvements daily throughout these voluntary practices, as well as him getting the opportunity to work with one of the most professional wide receivers and hardest working wide receivers in the NFL with Amon-Ra St. Brown, who very rarely drops passes, has put in a ton of work throughout his life to improve his hands. And if there's anybody that's going to be good at coaching up a player to improve their hands and improve their catching, it's going to be Amon-Ra St. Brown. And then he's now working with Detroit Lions legend Calvin Johnson to improve everything about his game. And Calvin has come out over the last couple of days and said he's going to do everything he can to help Jameson Williams in any way that he needs. So the Detroit Lions have this elite playmaker. They have this big play threat who's now actually getting a chance to succeed in the NFL and is actually fully getting an opportunity to prepare for an NFL season for the first time. And Lions fans are looking to turn their back. Lions fans are looking to offload him. They're looking for the Detroit Lions to cut him immediately, as well as the media writing articles about how he's going to be the next Charlie Rodgers, how he's going to be the next great NFL bust at wide receiver for the Detroit Lions. And it's just simply an unfair narrative to have. People need to have some patience. Detroit Lions fans need to be a little bit patient with Jameson Williams, because once he gets on the field in 2023, that's where we can judge Jameson Williams. That's where we can really get an idea of how well he's developing, how far he's come since his rookie season, and how good he's going to be as an NFL player. But until then, have some patience. Give the kid a break. Let the kid have a little bit of time to develop. Give the kid a little bit of break on social media. He's allowed to like whatever he wants. He's allowed to smile in whatever pictures he wants to smile in, and give him a chance to prove himself in the Motor City. With all that being said, that is all for you guys today. If you enjoyed the content, please make sure you go down below and subscribe to the channel, as well as liking the video. It helps the channel out a ton. And if you hit the bell notification, you will never miss a Detroit Lions upload. And of course, let me know how you guys feel about Jameson Williams. Are you on the camp of, hey, give him a break, give him a little bit of time to develop? Or are you one of those people that is asking for him to be released, that is being incredibly hypocritical on him? And if you are, let me know the reasons. I'd be very curious to hear the other side of the story on why people are so critical of Jameson Williams. And if you are, I'd be very curious to hear the reasons. But with all that being said, that's all I got for you guys today. Thank you all so very much for watching. And until next time, and as always, go Lions.